covered quite a few issues on patents. I hope people that hadn't maybe looked at the subject before consider looking at it again, looking at it in more detail in the future. The link that Gordon kindly provided, I would thoroughly recommend anybody to have a listen to that. And obviously, like Roy says, get involved, do care, learn which companies are being exploited in the way we've described, and paying money to Microsoft, and do your bit. What I think we're going to do, I think we're going to start wrapping up the show with just some headlines, that very quick, punchy headlines from the last few days. I certainly will pass over to Roy. There's nothing particular that's caught my eye that we didn't cover the previous day. But if Roy's got a few headlines he wants to fire out, we'll look at some of those now.
There isn't anything major. I'm just looking around. Quirky 1.4 is being released by the founder of Puppy Linux, which is still around. So Barry, who's the person behind Puppy, he's still involved in some capacity with the distribution, and he hasn't released. And we have CentOS 6 coming out very soon. We have Fedora 12 approaching the end of life. And the interesting thing I found out today, do you know about ZFS or ZFS here?
Yeah, I haven't read any stories on it today, so it's going to be a surprise if you're going to fire a story.
The next Debian is supposed to have it to be the first GNU distribution to support ZFS out of the box. So that's a pretty major win for Debian being kind of one of the first things. Because as you know, Debian is not strictly GNU/Linux; it can be BSD as well. It's more of a free distribution. It targets lots of different architectures, and in this case, it has the formerly Sun, now Oracle file system as part of the system. It tries to give you lots of different options and integrate all of them, and that's quite nice. And they have a new Twitter account, so they try and use Twitter now for at least a month now. They try to spread to advertise the project a bit better. They also created a Facebook page, which was kind of a controversial thing because Facebook and Microsoft and privacy and all that sort of stuff. So people weren't too happy about that. And I'm just looking down the list, and I'm seeing some news about phones.
I'll just fire in very quickly. Python 3.1.3 has been released. The links will be on the show notes for that. That was courtesy of DistroWatch, who were very handy for listing all the latest packages in the release. That was released on the 28th. That caught my attention. And Pigeon 2.7.7 was also released. That came out, I believe, 3 days ago. So that's just out, and again, that's courtesy of DistroWatch and their package. And I don't know, Roy, have you tried Pigeon recently? Because I think we mentioned.
I've never used that.
Yeah, well,
I haven't used instant messaging since 2004. Intentionally.
I played with it, must have been about a year and a half ago, and I think I brought up the question in IRC in the TechBytes channel yesterday, because I was unsure whether there was support for webcam on Pigeon. But I remember last time I had a look at it was I was looking at the IRC client facility, and I wasn't impressed. So I sort of left it and thought, well, there's not really much of a bonus or advantage to me to having all this social networking chat clients all in one. So I went back to a separate client from the IRC. I haven't looked at it since, but I intend to have a look at that again, because last time I checked, or last time I had it running, I can't remember what version, it wasn't working with webcam. So that might be fixed. So that might be worth a look at. Sorry, go on.
I think usually I get lots of news about free software, where I syndicate people mostly in Identica, and some of them are kind of more into free software and slightly political. So I think the WikiLeaks news has been flooding the website in the past 24 hours since the release of the Cablegate yesterday. So that's been kind of interesting in its own way, because it shows you what transparency can achieve. But yeah, I think as far as Linux news is concerned, it's been pretty slow recently.
Yeah. Well,
sorry,
right, I'm going to try and tempt fate and see if my connection holds out for a quick sentence or two, as it seems to be struggling tonight. On the WikiLeaks thing, the governments keep telling you that if you've done nothing wrong, you've nothing to hide. That's what they keep telling you. Every time they try to intrude in and expose different things. So why do they conduct ACTA treaties behind closed doors if they have nothing to hide? Why do they make all these agreements behind closed doors if they have nothing to hide? Why are they so scared and saying about these cables and this information being leaked? If they've done nothing wrong, they have nothing to hide. I mean, surely it goes both ways, right?
Mm. Yes, yeah, it's. I mean, I'll send to Roy just before we came on the recording. Yeah, certainly from the local press and the radio shows around here, there was very little interest in or amazement in the WikiLeaks latest story. So going back to your point about WikiLeaks, that was surprising to me. Very few people were interested. It was a case of, things that held said behind closed doors, and we all know that the government or people in the government will say one thing to the face and something else behind people's backs, and that's just life. It's probably common in every office. So that the apathy that the we created was really didn't come as a surprise to me, because I certainly haven't even gone to that site yet to have a look at that information. Sorry, Gordon, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was there something else you wanted to add?
No, I don't want to tempt fate because my connection seems to be dropping all the time. I've had to sit out quite a lot of this episode because of my connection. So no, I'm not going to tempt fate and just continue the rest of the show.
Well, it was nice to see that. I believe Torrent Freak is running the story that we discussed yesterday about the template letter. I think that's come up on Torrent Freak. And this, I would recommend on the subject of copyright, anybody who's interested in sort of issues surrounding file sharing and copyright, to keep an eye on the Torrent Freak website, which is a very good source of sort of breaking news for the whole sort of genre of file sharing and copyright and copyright enforcement. So it was. I've been following that over the last few days. But Roy, sorry, Roy. Is there anything else you would like to add?
We did a special show yesterday about copyright, and I think we also covered the censorship which came from the DHS trying to shut down. Was it torrent, some sort of torrent finder or searcher or something like that? Yeah, and it's still in the headlines, and it's a really interesting thing because only about a week ago I downloaded about 6 gigabytes of music. Now you'd probably think it's illegal, but no, all of it was entirely legal, and that comes from I'm not sure if it's considered to be an expo, but it's South by Southwest, which is a conference, and that's from 2010. They released over 1,000 songs, which were made available by the people attending the conference or the expo, whatever you want to call it, and performing and trying to give free samples, which they did. And they tried to bundle these things together and make it available to people. So I was among those people. It turns out lots of people also do the exact same thing as me, and once in a while grab those over 1,000 songs, which are legally shareable, and use torrent to share these files. And that's an example of a perfectly legitimate thing which benefits the artists who want to be noticed and want their music to be heard. They're being demonized or stifled in terms of the medium. Their stuff is considered to be copyrighted, which probably it is, but it's at the same time it's also the copyright is being used as a way of keeping their ownership of the file, but they can make it shareable at the same time. It's a bit like the GPL. And I actually have almost half an hour of a track that I found in this connection, which also makes extensive use of fair use. This is one of those controversial issues where very often you have rappers using a sample from a very famous song, and they just take like 3 seconds of the song and they repeat those 3 seconds and make a whole track out of it. And that's a use of, that's a clear use of the fair use doctrine. And even when people do that, the companies which own the very small segment of 3 seconds, they'll try to bend the law, and they'll try to convince you now. In the UK now, you cannot even link to headlines with the names with the full headline. They say, well, the headline is copyrighted. And if I link to your site and I give the headline of your site. I give you the link. I give you traffic. If I give the headline, I'm actually infringing copyrights, right? So that's in the UK now, which is completely ridiculous. That just criminalizes just about every